Mr. Richard Savala, thank you very much for being on here on TheBoxingBar.com, and welcome, sir.
How you doing, buddy?
Richard, let's go ahead and start with the first question I ask everybody. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Woodland, California. It's a little farm town, probably west of Sacramento, California, the capital.
What was your childhood like there?
My grandpa's brother, Trina, used to run the Mace Ranch in Davis, so most of my childhood was, going to the fields, picking tomatoes, hanging with my tios. My dad's brother, my dad and my mom, that was just growing up around the fields. And, my dad was a professional boxer. He was, after his career was over, he was working in the fields and working in Davis at the Primate Center. And he was teaching all three of his sons how to box. So, we always used to box as kids. So basically that's how our childhood was in over there in that area.
And what was your relationship with your parents and your siblings growing up? Were you guys pretty tight as a family?
As kids growing up, my mom and dad were very young when they had us, and because my father got burned in a fire when I was 9 years old. Basically, me and my brothers and my sister were raised by my mother, from the age of me, 1969 on up until adulthood from my mother, because my dad got burned in a fire and he was a vegetable. But from the age of 9, my memories of having a stable home, my dad used to work, come home, and my mom used to be the mom, taking care of the kids. It was good, until my dad got in that fire, got burned, and then he left my mom alone to raise her son. And it's kind of weird how our life went because, my mom got a lot of money from when my dad got burnt in that fire, and all the wolves came out, all these dudes trying to get at my mom, and because they knew she was single and she had all this money, and it's kind of like we grew up trying to protect our mother, and having three sons, and we all knew how to fight from childhood, okay, so we chased a lot of those men away, even as young men, 12-year-old, 13-year-old boys, we knew how to fight pretty good. We chased them away, but, basically our childhood was fond memories with my dad being the dad, teaching us how to box, and then when I turned 9 years old, he got in the fire, and basically I became my brother's leader, and we had to watch each other's backs and take care of our mother. So that's how our childhood went.
And from you, your brothers, are you the oldest? Are you the youngest? Were you the middle child?
I'm the oldest, and I was, very, protective of my brothers, and my brothers were very protective of me. We all protected each other because that's how my dad raised us. If you get in a fight, you better jump in. If you lose, I'm going to kick your butt worse than you lost. That's how my dad raised us. Always to have each other's back and take care of family.
And you guys were always there for each other and watch each other's back, like you're saying, of course.
Always growing up. That's how, my dad raised us.
And so is this how boxing kind of got into your life because your dad was a boxer himself and maybe because you guys were born and kind of raised to be tough kids? Is that how boxing fell into your life?
This is funny because after my dad got in that fire, we kind of like left boxing for a few years because, my dad wasn't around pushing it, having us, doing it as stuff. But growing up in the Barrio, because we grew up in Broderick, it's another little town between where I was born and Sacramento, but it's still in the Yolo County. It's right across the river from Sacramento. It's a tough neighborhood, and as kids growing up in that neighborhood, we used to always hear stories about our father, how, because my dad was the first guy to ever beat Jesus Demon Dale when he was undefeated. My dad was a bantamweight fighter. He was bad, but my dad didn't take care of himself, but he had three of us, we hear these stories about my dad, who's going to be the next Trino, and whoop this, and so all of a sudden this seed was planted in our head, hey man, I want to be like Pops, because we're hearing all these stories about my dad, being a boxer. We've never seen him box, we never seen our father fight. Because by the time we were coming around, he was already, when we were old enough to know what was going on, he was working. He wasn't boxing anymore. So we had to hear all this stuff from other people. And we got back into boxing. There was this cop named Otis Grimble out of Sacramento. He ran the Sacramento Pell. He took me and my brothers off the streets, man, and had the trainer who was running the gym there, John Mays, start training us boys. And that's when basically our amateur boxing careers took off, So all this chase, this dream of trying to be like our father, or to correct the wrongs of the mistake that my father made, because he was a very good talented fighter, but he drank his career away, nightlife and all that stuff, and we weren't going to end up like him.
You grew up in a very tough area. You grew up rolling with your two brothers all the time, there, like you said, in the Barrio. Because you didn't have a father figure to be telling you or guiding you guys in the right way, you guys only had your mother, and then you guys had yourselves in an area like that. Did you ever get confronted, or did you guys ever get into gangs and all the party life and all that as young men?
Yes, we did. We're from this hood named Broderick, and how do you say, in 1975, the Yolo County Sheriff's Department gave us a name, the Broderick Boys. We were just teenagers, 15, 14, and so we used to claim our neighborhood, the Broderick Boys. We were from West Sac, Broderick, and that was our hood. We used to get in fights and all that stuff, and basically that's how we were beating up everybody. Since we knew how to box since we were babies, so we had an advantage over a lot of other kids. But because we knew how to fight really good, my brother Mario got stabbed. I got hit in the head with a baseball bat. I got shot. I got shot at 18 years old, because of our involvement with the fight. And that's how the cop from Sacramento Pell got involved in our life, because he knew we were Trino's kids. He knew that we knew how to box, so he got us onto the boxing team for the Sacramento Pell. But yeah, we were involved in a lot of that stuff growing up. The gang Sacramento against Broderick, us against Woodland, us against different neighborhoods. And that's just the way it was. We were just tough kids from a tough little neighborhood, a little farm town.
Do you remember the first time you walked into a boxing gym and seeing people hitting the bags and the sounds of people hitting the bags and whatnot? Do you remember the first time and what it was like for you?
The first time I can actually remember going into the ring was at the L Street Arena when I was probably about 8 years old, before my dad got burned in the fire. I didn't want no part of it, because I seen them guys beating each other up, man. And oh, hell no, man. But my little brother Mario loved it. My brother Danny was too small still. Oh, hell no. And my dad, put the gloves on us and made us get in the ring. And I remember getting hit in the nose, and I threw the gloves off and ran. My dad kicked me in the butt. Says, go there. If you're going to go home and go to your mom, you're a mama's boy. My brother Mario excelled at it. And I used to be in the background watching my dad, admire my little brother. All that did was motivate me to try to work harder so that I can be like my brother Mario, my younger brother Mario, so that I can get my father's attention. So, it motivated me. But my first memory of a gym was the L Street Arena in Sacramento.
Looking at your father and his accomplishments, like you said, beating Jesus Pimentel, someone, of a great stature like that, I mean, he was a legend. Were you proud, or looking back at it, are you proud of your father's accomplishments?
I'm proud of my father's win over Jesus Pimentel, because people still talk about it to this day. All the old-timers that are still alive, they talk about it. It's the things that motivated me and my younger brother Mario, my younger brother Danny, was the stories that we used to hear about my dad and the bad choices that he made. We're proud of our father's accomplishments as a fighter, but the bad choices that he made that ruined his career, it's kind of like motivate us not to do the same. We're not going to be like Pops. We're gonna do it this way. But being proud that my father, beat Jesus Pimentel, because that's basically one of the biggest fights that they still talk about today. And then his loss to Pajarito Moreno. My dad took that fight. My dad was a bantamweight, and he fought that fight at 127, went up to a featherweight to fight, and got stopped, and that was the end of his career. He got a concussion. But still, those moles, man, I was very proud of my father, who he was, just kind of like disappointed in the choices that he made. And we weren't going to make the same choices that he did. But it's funny, me and my brother Mario, we did end up following in our father's footsteps.
And your mom, how does she feel about you guys all becoming boxers and following your father's footsteps?
It's funny you say that. My mom was mean. My mom would kick my dad's butt, okay? My mom was a mean little old Mexican lady, okay? 4'11", 5 feet tall. She was mean. So the day she died, my mom whipped my butt, okay? My mom died when I was 43 years old. So the day she died, she kicked my butt, okay? My mom was mean. But my mom, let me tell you like this, when we were kids, after my dad got burned, my mom would get a pillow and practice combinations with it, because she used to watch my father work out with us and all that stuff. My mom really, pushed us in the direction of trying to want us to be like our father. My mom loved my father. She adored my father. My father was just a screw-up.
Wow.
He made some bad choices, okay? My mom, this is how much my mom loved my father, that me and my brother Mario, see, I'm going to start crying, man. Me and my brother Mario resemble my dad a lot, okay? And every time, my mom would get this feeling, she would start crying. Whenever me and Mario would do something, that would remind her of my dad, she would start crying, man. You son of a bitch, you guys remind me of your father. My dad was a womanizer. I didn't tell you that, okay? Me and my brother Mario, girls always chased us. my mom would, she would just see my dad and all of us, but she loved my dad, and those are the special moments that she had with her son, because we reminded her of my father. So basically, we were still around. When us being around, my dad was still around by us being around. Okay, because we looked like our father and we acted like our father. So it was kind of good and it was kind of bad for my mom. But my mom, yeah, she did force us and push us into boxing, forces and pushed us to be like our father.
Or she saw him in each and all three of you guys.
Yeah, but especially in me and my brother Mario, because my brother Danny, he resembles my mom a lot, but me and my brother Mario, we have our dad's characteristics, and we resemble him a lot, and it's my mom used to just see him in us.
Oh, I bet you guys carried the same mannerism too as your father.
Yeah, we were cocky little roosters.
What was your amateur career like? When did you get into trying to become a fighter or going forward into this particular career as a boxer?
Well, from the age of probably 12 to the age of 15, 16, I wasn't serious. I used to box. I used to win. I don't know. This is what you're going to crack up on my career. I was the brother who could go into a fight and train maybe 6 days and win a fight, okay? And all my brothers, my two little brothers, they trained all the time. And then the coach would say, hey, Richard, we got a fight for you, man. Okay, man, I'll fight. And the weight should have been, I'm fighting at 130, 135 pounds when I should have been fighting at maybe 119 or 125 pounds, And they would spur the moment fight. So from the age of, say, 12 to the age of 15, 16, I never took it serious, but I used to win. The only time I'd ever lose if I fought in tournaments, because, I used to fight back then you'd fight twice in one day, and then the following day you would fight again, and then you would fight that evening for the finals, and I'd probably lose my third fight in because I was so tired. I was in training. But in 1977 is when I actually, got really serious into boxing. I'm going to make something of myself, man. And I fought an international bout against Mexico, and I won, and I fought a couple of top amateur fighters, John Mergurza and a couple, Frankie Davis from Reno, Nevada. And I beat these guys. These guys were top amateurs. And I said, man, hell, I'm going to turn pro, So, I decided to turn pro, and I left my amateur career as a winner and went into my professional career, not knowing what I was getting myself into. I just wanted to how do you say, redeem my dad's name. Basically, one of the reasons why I turned pro, and because I had my girlfriend pregnant too, and I wanted to be able to take care of my baby that was on the way.
Your pro debut there in Sacramento. What do you remember about that night when you were in the locker room before going out through the drapes for the first time? What was it like for you knowing that you're going to become a pro and this is going to be a whole totally different animal?
When I found out who I was fighting, my first pro fight, the guy I fought was Johnny Salcedo. In the amateurs, this guy was a terror. I never fought him in the amateurs. We kind of avoided him. He was a banger. He could bang, man. We avoided him, and he ended up turning pro the same time I turned pro. And when I found out I was fighting this guy, and I was in really good shape, for my first pro fight, I trained my butt off. I actually trained my butt off for this fight. I fought at 124, 125, I can't remember. And I'm up in my dressing room, man, I'm fighting this Johnny Salcedo. I'm nervous, but I know I can bang. I never fought the guy, but I've seen him fight a lot of times. I've seen him destroy guys, man, because he used to knock out guys in the amateurs. And it's hard to knock guys out in the amateurs, because they have those big gloves. So anyways, I'm nervous. And they go, Savala, you're on. I'm going down the stairs into the auditorium, and then the crowd breaks out in a roar because Trino Savala's son. Everybody's been waiting for me to turn pro. All the guys used to watch my dad fight, and then my fans that I acquired throughout my amateur career, and I'm bouncing and dancing. I get into the ring, and he's already in there. I'm looking across, and he's about 5'3", bulky, just muscles all over it. I said, damn, man. So, like I said, I was nervous as hell, but as soon as the bell rang and the first punch was thrown, it was on and crack, and everything that I practiced and learned in the gym, it worked in the ring.
After this and several other fights, after you keep winning and get on that winning streak, you get the moniker Mr. KO. Did you like that or getting that name or that nickname?
It's funny you say that, because I don't know how I got that name, well, I know how I got it now, but, it's kind of like, people knock people out, people knock people, the referee jumps in and stops the fights, and most of my fights, they're building me up as the next, Bobby Chicone's fighting in Sacramento, and I'm coming up, and they're building me, up to fight Bobby Chicone, they're building me up, and they're bringing in these guys, and I'm knocking these guys out, and I'm not just stopping them, I'm knocking them out, they're like, like on the ground out cold, going into spasms and all that. And then probably about my 12th fight, maybe 11th fight, the Sacramento Bee gave me the nickname Mr. KO because I was knocking everybody out. There was one time where I fought in Sacramento, went to L.A., fought in Sacramento, won a knockout 1 week, went to L.A., fought on the Thursday, knocked somebody out, stayed in L.A., and fought the following Thursday, knocked somebody out. I had 3 knockouts in a row, and Sacramento Bee named me Mr. KO, and I knocked these guys out cold, where, just they had to take them out on stretchers, carry them out. And when they gave me that name, it was put a lot of pressure on me, hell, I got to knock these dudes, I got to start knocking everybody out there. It's what they're expecting from me. Yeah, I said it did put a lot of pressure, but I did like the nickname because it still lives with me to this day. People say, hey, what's up, Mr. KO? And then some people call me, hey, you ain't Mr. KO, you're Mr. OK now. They tease me a lot.
What was it like there at the Olympic Auditorium or fighting there in just your 7th fight in an arena like that? I mean, it was considered to be, one of the meccas of boxing, of course, at that time, along with Madison Square Garden. But for the West Coast, that was the mecca of boxing. What was it like to fight in that arena, going through that aisle where there's going to be a bunch of Mexicanos, rowdy Mexicanos out there, walking to the ring with all the smoke in the air and all that? What was it like, with that crowd there at the Olympic Auditorium?
It's funny you say that, okay, because I remember my first fight there, I'm in the dungeon. They call it the dungeon. It's like a gladiator. It's a bowl. It's a bowl there. It's a gladiator, environment. And a little light blinks, and they go, Savala, you're on, and you go out there. If you're fighting a Mexican from Mexico, you're in trouble, okay? That's all I got to tell you, okay? You're fighting a Mexican from Mexico, you're in trouble at the Olympic Auditorium. I went out there, and I knocked the dude out, and they started throwing shit. They started throwing stuff at me.
It's called a boxing bar, so bad language is appropriate.
I know. I try not to cuss, because I'm a youth counselor, and sometimes it's hard. But hey, they started throwing crap at me, man. They started throwing beer. They could have been urine. It could have been pee, But all I know is, man, is that I should tell, man, I don't want to fight a Mexican there, man, because if I win, they're gonna throw stuff at me, man. And but anyways, every time I went there, but then when the crowd started, because they used to say I was from Whittier. Okay, not from Sacramento when I fought in L.A. because that's where I lived in Whittier when I was fighting in L.A. There was a moment that I actually stayed there and lived there, and they'd fly me back to Sacramento to fight. But I was based out of L.A. for probably about a good year of my career. But when they got to know me there at the Olympic, I started getting a following. One of my first, I think it was my first or my second main event. I can't remember. When I fought Gilbert Favela. Gilbert Favela was a 10-round fight there, and I knocked him out. He was a Chicano from Texas. But I fought, but they started knowing me there, and they started, it started quieting down and all that. They started calming down.
What would you consider your first big fight was? Where do you think your first big test was?
My first big test probably would have been when they put 2 undefeated fighters against each other. There was 2 of us that were undefeated out of Sacramento. He was a black dude, and I'm a Chicano dude, and he used to come to my fights and always taunt me and talk shit to me, and I told my manager, why don't you give me to fight this dude? I'm tired of his mouth, He's undefeated. He says that that he can whip my butt and all this stuff, so they put the fight together, and I ended up breaking my hand in the second round. I broke my hand in the second round, hit him right in the forehead, and broke my hand, and basically I beat him half to death with the left hand. For the next, 7, 8 rounds, just beat the crap out of him. I hit him so hard that he did a somersault, and that was the battle of the undefeated, and I won. That was my biggest test as a young man coming up. But fighting somebody with a lot of experience, probably fighting Joey Phillips, Flapping Eagle. These guys had more fights than me, Let me see. Then I fought Alejandro Lopez. And some other, those dudes, they were all 10-round main event fighters, but they were bringing them in for me to fight, and I was beating them, and they were just building me up. Probably, and I'm going to keep it honest with you, probably about my 16th fight, I'm 16-0. They're building me up to fight Chacon. They're bringing these guys in. I'm beating them. And these guys who fought, other up-and-coming fighters, and and they're seeing how I did against them, and I'm knocking them out, or I'm either beating them to death for whatever 10 rounds. And about my 16th fight, I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped being disciplined. I started going to nightclubs. I started chasing the women, and I'm married. I was bad. I'm chasing the women. I'm forgetting forgetting what got me to where I was at that moment. And they got me a fight, my 17th fight. I think I trained probably about 12 days and I won. My 18th fight, I probably trained 9 days and I won. My 19th fight, I probably trained about 2 weeks and I won. My 20th fight, I probably trained 6 days and I won. Didn't know how I was winning because I was in the nightclubs all the time. And then they're building me up. I'm 20-0. Okay, they decide. Don Chargent says, "Hey, we're gonna go after the state title. It's vacant. We're gonna get somebody for you. From LA, and you're gonna fight for the state title." They brought in some guy named Renan Murata. He's fought a lot of people. He's fought Chacon. Alejandro Lopez fought Chacon. And they were picking guys against me who Bobby already fought to see how I did with them. Okay. And they brought in Renan Murata, and I ended up beating him, and I won the state title. And then they were planning on making a big fight for me and Bobby. And they brought in Porfirio Rojas from LA, who's a veteran fighter. And I knew I was going to fight him. I think I went to LA and fought, and then I came back to Sacramento. If you look at it before that, I think I went to LA and fought, and then I came back to Sacramento. But I knew that I was going to fight Rojas, and then they were going to try to get me a big fight. But I fought in L.A., and then I got my winnings there, came back to Sacramento, and started going out to the nightclubs and doing all the stuff that a boxer is supposed to be doing. And probably about a week before I was going to fight Rojas, decided I'm going to get in some shape, half-ass shape, okay? And I started taking the water pills, laxatives, running, going to the gym, hitting the bag, get a few rounds in the sparring. By then, my ego was so big that, and I thought I was invincible, that nobody could beat me because I was beating everybody else, that I'm gifted, I'm invincible. And the bottom line is, man, is that when Rojas came to town, and I'm up in my dressing room, and I'm going to keep it real with you right now, okay? As I'm up in my dressing room, I've been dabbling in cocaine, I was selling cocaine, I was dabbling cocaine, I was in the nightlife. I'm up in my room, man, and I had this notion that if I did a line of cocaine, that I would go out there and I'd probably be able to beat the crap out of this dude because I wasn't nowhere in shape, okay? I was nowhere in shape at all. Hit the line, jumped up and down, Savala, you're on. I go down there, get into the ring, and by the time I got to the ring, I'm climbing, I said, damn, I'm tired already. Just walking from my dressing room to the ring, and Rojas is across from me, just ready, sweat. He's in shape, man, ready. And the bell rings, I go out there, and we're throwing blows. We're just throwing chingazos. I know I got to get this guy out of here in the first round. I end up dropping him. He gets up, and the bell rings, and I'm dead tired, shot my load. For the next 3 rounds, this guy beat my ass for the next 3 rounds. He beat me up so bad that they stopped the fight. He didn't knock me out. They stopped the fight because I was so tired, basically, that's how my career ended right there because I didn't take care of myself.
Sounds like you kind of, like you said, gave up on the sport. Would you say you kind of quit, the determination or, that something for the sport because the party life, you were starting to get introduced to that or popularity or the money, or maybe you were just that confident because you were beating everybody up? Did all of that kind of mix into you getting to a point where you felt like you didn't need to train anymore and you could do what you want and you were going to be successful? Or were you that confident in yourself to think like that?
About my 16th fight, like I told you, it's kind of like the nightlife, being that guy, being in the news all the time. I was in KO magazine. I think I was in Boxing Illustrated. This was the West Coast sensation, and then
the notoriety.
My head blew up. I'm that guy. And I got to forget her. I forgot what got me there, and I like that nightlife, and I like the notoriety and all that stuff, and it kind of drew me away from my discipline. It drew me away from it, especially I was winning still, and it all mixed together. And that's why today, because I go out and I talk to a lot of kids and I talk to a lot of young boxers today about taking care of themselves, living a clean life, listening to your trainer, listening to your manager. I didn't listen to nobody. Like I said, I got so big-headed and put on a pedestal by my town that I got too big. My ego got too big, So fame, and I didn't really make a lot of money. So fame and notoriety, not fortune, took over my life. I was a young kid from the Barrio who didn't know how to handle success. That's the bottom line right there. And when I talk to a lot of young boxers, I let them know this, man. We have some good fighters coming up right now, you know, in Sacramento, and I let them know, you're a good kid, dude. You're good. You're a good fighter. Remember what it takes for you to get to where you're going. Just keep that discipline going, and it'll get you all the way through. Because once you forget how you got there, you're just gonna let yourself down. I let young fighters know this, and I tell them my story, you know, and they always thank for telling me, hey, thank you, Mr. Savala, because I have a lot of, there's a lot of stories about me. I had a lot of stories written about me, about how I screwed my life up, and got caught up in prison gangs and all that stuff. And a lot of these fighters from Sacramento, they read my story, and they thank me for my stories, and because they're not going to make the same mistakes as I did.
After this fight with Rojas, you came back 6 months later, got a win. 3 months later, you fought again, fought 2 more times after that. That was the end of the Richard Savala story in boxing. What happened after that final fight, and what became of you thereafter?
After my last loss, when I lost 2 fights in a row to guys I was supposed to demolish, opponents, okay? I should have demolished these guys. And I wasn't in shape, and I lost you guys. I told myself that I'm not going to end up being a punch-drunk fighter and just be an opponent to anybody, okay? And I just quit boxing. Never went back to it. I got caught up into the dark world of drugs, gangs. I was somebody in boxing. Now I became somebody in the dark world, after my boxing career. From 1983, 84, 85, 86, I was in the dark world. I was a big cocaine drug dealer. I used to go down south and pick up my coke all the way in Santa Ana, down south by Orange County. And all my drug connections were my ex-boxing fans. It's funny how that worked out. Because,
Yeah,
those guys are the ones who go to the fight. Those are the guys who were putting me in pocket with dope. And I utilized that. I utilized my fame from boxing to get in the right doors in the dark world. And it's not easy. It's really easy for, how do you say, a fighter who can fight pretty good, and it was pretty good in the back in the days, to get in them doors, because a lot of those gangsters, they want a guy like you around. So I got into that world, and I was selling a lot of cocaine, selling a lot of drugs, and the thing is that I was using too. You know how you see that movie, what was it called, where the dude thinks the helicopters are following him and he's that important and all that stuff? Goodfellas. Yeah. Yeah. That's how cocaine did to me, man. I was all paranoid. I was that important that the feds were chasing me and all that stuff, man. And, and I was making money, and I was using dope, and I was making money, and I was becoming a monster, man. I was utilizing all the people that I met during my career.
Did you ever run into like a customer or somebody that you were working with? Let's say, when you were dealing or whatever, there in Sacramento. Did you ever run into somebody and, when you'd go, whether it be to pick up or drop off or whatever it might have been, or whatever transaction, look at you and say, hey, wait a second, this is Richard Savala, the boxer. What is he doing here? Did you ever get that, somebody that recognized you, who you were?
Yeah, the first time that I met the guy in L.A., in Santa Ana, okay, hey, tú eres el Richard Savala, el boxeador, no? I said, yeah, man, in Spanish to me, I think you fight at the Olympic, and it kind of got me in the door, what happened to your career? I let him know, but there's been many times I've been places where people would recognize me and say, well, what are you doing in this world now? I'm in this world, this is what I do now, and they didn't question it no more. I put a mask on, and I try to be this tough guy, basically, and I got respect in the dark world too.
Was it something that you just needed because it was that addiction, of the drugs just taking over your body? Or was there like some kind of inner pain within yourself that maybe you were missing or you were lacking, or some hurt that you had deep inside that made you want to get your mind out of this world, and that's why you kept on this drug into this addiction?
It's funny how you say that. It's because I'm 12 years sober now. I've been clean and sober for 12 years. Okay, and when I went into rehab treatment, they brought that out of me. And I used to think that I used drugs from 1982 to the year 2000 because I liked it. Okay, I used to think that, and I ain't got no problem, man. Shoot, I like the effect and all that stuff. But when I got sober, I found out that that I was using drugs because I was running from my past. I was running from all the letdowns and all the hurt that I caused, from my past. Man, I was medicating the pain, covering and putting a Band-Aid on my past, and all I did was just create bigger and bigger problems. But that's what I found out much later on in life. When I got clean, is that I used to think that I needed the drugs, but I found out later on when I got sober that I was running from life and I was medicating myself with drugs.
And did you ever get those answers of why you were like hurting or what those pains were? Did you ever get those answers?
I got the answer. I was longing for my dad.
And I have a feeling. I had a feeling you were going to say that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had a feeling you were going to say that. There was something inside me that said that you were going to say that.
Father. I was longing for my father, man. I was longing for my father, and I was in so much pain because I wish my dad was there with me. If I want to cry again, I wish my dad was there with me to protect, and he wasn't. He wasn't. I grew up without a dad, me and my brothers. And, and I medicated myself, I didn't want to feel, And I had children myself by then, and I did the same thing that my father did to us, to my children, just so I didn't get in a fire. I just ran. I ran from life, and medicated myself.
Is your dad still around?
No, my dad passed away. My dad did get to see me get sober.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. My dad loved me. My dad was a veteran. He had brain damage, but he knew what was going on. My dad got to see me get sober, and my dad, anybody asked him about his son, Richard, he'd say, Buck bad. Buck, that was my nickname, Buck. Buck bad, Buck mean. He'd tell everybody that. Yeah.
You got in some legal troubles, of course, because of all the drugs after your career and stuff. What was it like when you got into those legal troubles or got caught, or however you want to put it? What was it like when you were in trouble or you were locked up in jail? How did that help you or not help you when they caught you?
Well, basically, when they arrested me in '86, I got busted with a gun and 19 grams of heroin. I can honestly tell you, they saved my life when I got arrested. They saved my life. I was so bad and so mean in those freaking streets. I was bad, okay, and they saved my life, basically, and I had the opportunity to meet that cop who arrested me, and I thanked him for arresting me, But anyways, when I got arrested, I got to jail, and because of who I am, I was somebody, and for someone like me who likes notoriety, who likes to be that guy, it wasn't that hard to get into the lifestyle that criminals live in jail and incarceration, in those kind of places, But I remember, the first time I went to jail, I got introduced, and see, back when I went to jail, in '86, the northern prison gangs were on fire. They were growing at that year, and I never was a gang member to where, I was going to fight against Southern Mexicans or anything. It wasn't about that. It was about, hood against hood, from my own town, I went to jail and I got introduced to politics, prison politics and all that stuff. And it was very easy for me to get involved in that stuff because I know how to fight. I know how to fight, man. Hey, boxer. They gave me the nickname boxer because I was a real boxer. Hey, boxer, you want to do this? Yeah, I'll do it. And go remove somebody from the line. I go do it. It was very easy. So my introduction to jail, the first time I went to jail, was to jail politics, and learning about prison politics and getting caught up into that lifestyle.
And from what I remember reading about you, Richard, I remember reading that it was just supposed to be a few-year sentence, and it ended up being, a dozen years or so. How did that happen? How did that come about that you go in there for just a few years and then you come out with a dozen years at the end?
It's not that hard for this kind of situation to happen for somebody that's of Hispanic descent, basically. Let me say it like that. You go to prison, if you're from Northern California, you're a Northerner. If you're from Southern California, you're a Southerner, and in prison, everybody fights for power, control, prestige on a prison yard. Somebody wants to control drug trafficking, they want to control the yard. And basically, you go to prison, you side up with whoever. And because I'm from Sacramento, I was basically able to Northerner. And when I got there, I got caught up in prison gangs, and I did my deal, did what a Northerner's supposed to do. I protected my fellow brothers that were there in prison with me. And, and doing my time, I turned 4 years into 12 years because I was striving to be that guy. And that's what happened in there.
Once you were released and you did your time, at what point did you say, I'm going to change my life? Or was that even the picture? Did you get back to your old ways for a while? How did that go?
I turned my life around while I was incarcerated. I was a validated prison gang member from probably 1986 to 1997. I was a prison gang member. 1997, I decided, you know what, man, I don't want no more of this. I decided to get out, and I dropped out. And I was the kind of guy, because I have the gift of gab, I got a mouthpiece on me, and I know a lot of people. I refuse to lock it up. I refuse to go to protective custody, okay? And because of that, I got moved on. I got stabbed, I think in 96 or 97, I got stabbed by two youngsters, and they sent two babies on me, a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I beat them real bad, but they stabbed me. They did their job, but I dropped out inside there. They sent me to the hole. I got out. They sent me to another prison, and I lasted probably the next 97, 98, 99, 2000, without getting in trouble. I survived, and I was an old Folsom. I survived, just because I had the gift of gab. What I can tell you is that when I dropped out in 97, doesn't mean that I stopped being a criminal in prison. I know how to build a wall around me. I know how to build soldados around me, but I was in prison, and I was hitting dope while I was in prison. I was selling dope while I was in prison. And whoever has the dope on the prison yard has control, has the power. And I was taught that over the years, so I utilized a lot of stuff that I learned over the years to protect myself for the next 3.5 years until I got out of prison. So basically, I built a wall around me, until I got out. But when I got out of prison in 2000, all I seen was homeboys and youngsters coming in and out of the pen for drugs, and gang banging. And when I got out of prison, I had a parole agent who believed in me. She believed in me. But, when I got out of prison in 2000, I didn't go straight. I went out and I started selling dope again, and I started doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. But I had a parole agent who gave me a break and put me in rehab. And while I was in rehab, I decided to go back to school and become a counselor, and that's in 2000, 2001. And I decided to go back to school and become a counselor because I wanted to help my raza. I wanted to help my raza not go down the same path that I went down. And I ended up, becoming a youth counselor.
After you left the ring and you went into the prison, and throughout your whole prison stint that you stayed there, was there anybody, whether it be fans or your family, or that stood by your side or that believed in you to help you out?
In the beginning, it was just my mother. My mother was all the negative influences were there for me to put me in pocket, and help me continue the negative stuff that I used to do. That was easy. It was all there. But my mom, I remember having one discussion with my mom. She told me to pull me to the side one time. She goes, Neil, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm not going to be living too much longer. What are you going to do? I'm not going to be here to take care of you anymore. And it really hit me, because all my mom ever did was take care of me. All those years in prison, my mom took care of me. Took care of her son, took care of her son, took care of her son. I'm her baby. I'm her oldest son. I'm her baby. I'm the one that she used to cry over all the time because I remind her of my dad. What are you going to do, son? And I decided to turn my life around, get sober. And I had a parole agent, like I said, who believed in me. My mom believed in me. I got into rehab, and I made my choice to start going straight. And there was a couple of people that I met, in my journey in sobriety. One was a judge, Judge Ranson. One was another retired news reporter, Donaldo Gomez, and one was a doctor, Dr. Jerome Lackner. These three people became like role models and mentors to me. Oh, and there's another guy, Bruce Klein, Folsom City attorney. They became mentors and role models to me while I was transitioning my life.
What was it like during that time when you were getting out of the habit and getting out of the drugs and all the withdrawals and that first phase? Was it the hardest thing in the world for you?
When I decided to get clean, when they put me in, when they put me into detox, I'm not going to say I was no angel, okay? When I was seeing my parole agent, she told me, hey, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to put you in detox, and I want you to go home, get your clothes, and report to detox. And my intentions were, to get clean. But when she gave me the option to leave her office and go get my clothes and report to detox, I went and got my clothes, but I went and got some more dope and some syringes. I keistered them, put them up my butt and took them into detox with me. And I probably used dope for the first 5 days of my detox there. And then when the fifth day when my dope ran out, my mom lived like 6 blocks away from the detox. I had a choice to walk out the back door or sit there and suffer the detox withdrawals because I was still using dope. I can honestly tell you that I sat there in my bed and I cried out to God. God, please help me. God, please help me. God, please help me. I don't want to go back to prison. I don't want to die. God, please help me. I fell asleep. I woke up the next day. I had no withdrawals. I wasn't sick. I started doing burpees, working out, push-ups, and I went on to another program. And then those men that I mentioned came into my life, and I started doing, just doing good stuff in the community.
Do you think your dad, looking down from you from up above, do you think he had something to do with it?
Probably my dad and my mom, because my mom and dad are both passed away. This is weird. My mom passed away. My mom passed away in 2003. A month later, or 3 months later, my dad passed away, and they said he passed away from a broken heart because he wasn't even sick. It was weird. They couldn't understand why he died, and they could only think he was missing my mom. Because even though my dad was a vegetable, my mom took care of him to the day she died, and I believe that both of them are looking down on me.
How did you get the plan to go and help somebody to not be a Richard Savala of the past? How did you get that plan to want to help somebody else and want to help somebody thrive in the future, become a success?
This happened in my first year. My first year being recovery, like I told you, I went back to school, and I remember, my parole agent at that time was Barbara Parkins. She told me, you ever thought about utilizing your past as your asset, working with kids? You were that guy. You were that guy in prison, and you had you used to be able to talk somebody into catching more time in prison. Maybe you can talk somebody out of staying out of trouble. She planted the seed. I say, you're right, huh? And that first year, I started going around volunteering at schools and at the Boys and Girls Club, speaking to kids and all that, at-risk kids and all that stuff. And next thing you know, it started going just, like wildfire, just growing and growing and growing. Next thing you know, everybody wanted me to come and speak here, come and speak there. I started getting better at speaking, public speaking, and it just started growing and growing, and my thing is, man, is that I wanted to help kids not go down the same path with me, and I was credible because I used to be that guy. I wasn't some guy who came from college with a degree who ain't never been in the radio. I was actually that guy who was a former athlete who became a prison gang member who actually turned his life around, and I remember being told by my parole agent that if you get into this field and you do this stuff, you remember that you got to walk your walk and talk your talk. Don't be a gangster by night and be a counselor by day. You got to live your life 24 hours clean and sober and obey the laws and show these guys that you're real. And I've been doing this for the last 12 years from the way my parole officer gave me the directions to do it.
And personally, what do you get out of helping out a kid when you see a kid, when you're mentoring them and see that he's maybe changing his life and listening to you, and what's that self-satisfaction that you get? What is that like for you?
The satisfaction I get, you can't buy it with money, and dope don't even give it to you, okay? It's kind of like, when the light bulb turns on in his kids, because a lot of kids, why do kids join gangs? Because they want to be a part of something, okay? They're lacking something at home, okay? And a lot of times they're lacking a father, so they look in the wrong areas for that father figure. And basically I can say the same thing for myself, I was looking at the wrong areas for somebody to look up to. And that's basically what kids do. And the thing is, man, is that, when I talk to these kids, I'm not going to be that guy who's going to tell you to go do something that I wouldn't do myself, And the thing is, man, is that, I want you guys to be better. I want you guys to stay in school. I want you guys to play sports. I want you guys to do things that kids are supposed to be doing instead of being locked up. And when I see some of my kids graduate high school, get off probation, join the military and become United States soldiers, graduate college, it's a feeling that money can't buy, and dope has never given me that high. It's prideful. I'm like a proud Papa Rooster, looking over my little pollitos. I call my little kids that I work with my little boyos, man, because I see them grow. I even got pollitos. I even got little girls that we get out of gangs and off of drugs, and I see them grow. And I have a lot of bad results too. I got a couple kids that are doing life in prison right now because they chose not to listen. They made bad choices, but I have a lot of success stories.
Now, like you said, you've been 12 years sober, and how does everybody see you now that hasn't seen you, that just remembers you from back in the day when you were in a haze, let's say, and when they see you now, do they have a certain reaction to you, or can they see that peace in your eyes now after 12 years?
Yeah, I get a lot of people, man. They're happy that I'm okay. A lot of people always wanted me to be okay. They wish the best for me, and I see people, and they're glad, they're happy what I'm doing in the community. When you become a prison gang member dropout, everybody smuts you up in prison. Everybody talks bad about you. Everybody's after you. It's funny how today, that people get out of prison, they come looking for me for help. It's crazy. There's, and because there's guys that I probably, if I was still who I used to be, I'd probably beat the crap out of them, stab them if I seen them today. And I see these guys today coming out asking me for help. And I'm glad that I'm not the old guy, that I can look past all that, because I don't live that way no more. But a lot of people are just happy that I turned my life around, and I help a lot of these people. I help them with their own kids.
Last year, you were inducted to the California Boxing Hall of Fame. Just a few days ago, one of your good friends, even like a family member to you, I'm sure, Tony the Tiger Lopez, was also inducted. What did that mean to you when you were on stage last year, accepting your award, and knowing that this came from boxing, a sport that brought good into your life, but also brought some bad into your life? How did it feel getting recognized finally?
When I found out that when I got the letter saying that I was going to be inducted to the Boxing Hall of Fame from Don Frazier, I was like, this has to be a mistake. It has to be a mistake. Because I didn't live the cleanest life. And I remember calling Mr. Balthazar, Frankie Balthazar, and he was telling me, yeah, you're being inducted. You're being inducted, kid. You were a badass, and you don't know how good that made me feel, man. It made me feel great, and you were a good fighter, kid, and being there amongst the people that I got inducted with, getting on stage, and my fellow boxers got inducted that year, just to be there in their presence was an honor, and to be remembered, because when I send my guys out, I should tell them good night. I should be a shit talker in the ring, okay? I used to tell them good night. He ain't getting up. I used to talk shit, man. He's not getting up. Don't worry about it, to be remembered for that kind of stuff, because when I used to hit somebody flush, I used to tell them good night. They would go to sleep, and just to be remembered for my power and all that stuff, was an honor, and to be recognized for the good I do in the community. It was an honor, it's kind of like I'm still on a pink cloud from that, We went just the other day. It was down south, and I was treated so good. I was treated so good down there by all the fans and all that stuff.
And even though you're going to be here for 100 more years, Richard, how would you want what I call the 3 big Fs, your family, your friends, your fans, how would you want them to look at your life once it's all said and done? How do you want to be remembered to everybody that loves you?
I want them to remember me as a good father, a good friend, and someone who made the mistakes for them. They don't have to go down the same path. I did it for them. To use my life as something to where they don't have to live the way I live. I just want to remember that I turned my life around and I made some good choices after I got out of prison. You want to hear something funny? You want to hear something really funny?
Yeah.
I went back to Folsom Prison back in 2003 to speak to the prisoner that I paroled from. Okay, and I'm sharing my story about redemption. And when I had about a year sobriety, I met a girl. And she asked me out. I said, "You want to go out with me? Are you sure? I'm a thug. I'm all tatted back and I'm dressing like a little Cholito and all that stuff. And you sure you want to go out with me?" And I said, she goes, "Yeah, let's go have some coffee." So we went and had some coffee, and she would never tell me what her dad did for a living. We started dating. We ended up moving in with each other, and about 3 years of being into our relationship, 2003, 2004, we decided we're going to get married. And she would never tell me what her dad did for a living until we decided we were going to get married. She said, I guess I better tell you what my dad is. My dad's a cop. And I said, oh, shit, your dad ain't going to let you marry me. Oh, hell no, man. Your dad's not going to let you marry me. Hey, and she says, if he doesn't let me marry you, I'm going to marry you anyway. And what I can tell you is that her dad loves me, man. And he says that I made him a believer that guys like us can change. And that was an honor, him saying that to me, because he used to think that guys like me were pieces of shit, that we always belong in jail. And he told me that I made him a believer that guys like me can change, man. And you know what? Me and him were best friends, me and my father-in-law. And I'm still with my wife. Our marriage is strong, and she supports everything I do. She keeps me in line, basically. I call her the general.
Well, Richard, like your father-in-law, I'm a believer in you too, man. And it's always good to hear a good ending to a sad story. From me to you, man, thank you very much for coming on here, onto TheBoxingBar.com, being so straight up, sharing your story, and just being yourself, man. I mean, everything that you get from here on, you deserve it. You worked hard for it, and you did what you had to change for the better. And I hope you continue this streak, man, just like you continue those knockouts. Thank you very much for coming on to TheBoxingBar.com, amigo, and hope to talk to you down the line.
You know what, buddy? It was an honor and a pleasure, man. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, brother, okay?